from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell and I'm in the Lord's commentary box in northwest London. This famous old ground is hosting Jimmy Anderson's final test match. The legendary England fast bowler is playing in his last game on the ground where he made his debut 21 years ago. So there was a wonderful reception for him as he led the team out on the opening day. And we've got sunshine here as well, which is very, very pleasing. But yeah, it's been a day where I'm sure there's been emotion for him, and there's probably a lot more to come.
Yes, Ali. Jim Maxwell for the ABC here in Sydney, in hibernation country in our winter. Mild winters as a rule, and it gives us a chance to keep an eye on what's going on at Wimbledon and various golf tournaments, a bit of Euro sport with the football, and now, of course, Jimmy Anderson and the delightful scene, as you were talking about, Ali, before he came out for that final test match. His daughters were ringing the bell there at Lord's. So, yeah, everything seemed to be in good shape, and England, they seem to have started pretty well too.
They have, haven't they? I'm Charu Sharma for Akashvani in the beautiful coastal city of Vishakhapatnam, Vizag for short, on the eastern seaboard of India, which, amongst other things, also boasts of a beautiful golf course, the East Point Golf Course, as I found out yesterday. I'm here for, now the business end of the Andhra Premier League. There's so much going on in terms of cricket here. All the state leagues are going on. And, of course, the Indian teams out in Zimbabwe are keeping a sharp eye on that. And all the goings-on for you, Alison, at Lord's.
Sitting alongside me is one of the greatest batters of all time, Brian Lara. A very warm welcome to Stumped. You did spend the day here at Lord's, didn't you, on day one of this test match with the West Indies? What did you make of the sense of occasion, Jimmy Anderson's last test match, the way the day unfolded?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome that one man, especially a fast bowler, can play so long. I mean, Courtney Walsh was another one that played a pretty long career, but Jimmy Adams, in great conditions, of course, in England, but he's traveled around the world and did well. And to have 701 wickets now in Test cricket as a fast bowler is monumental, and I think a wonderful career. He got me, I think, maybe my last innings in England as a Test cricketer. That's back in 2004.
At the Oval.
Yeah, at the Oval, in swinger, straightened, caught behind. Actually, I did well to edge it.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I heard you say in another interview that was almost the best ball you think you ever faced.
Yeah, I mean, from a young fast bowler, definitely. And you just thought you covered it, and to just sort of nick it, and whatever it did its own thing. And it was a tremendous delivery. Yeah,
he had his limelight rather stolen by Gus Atkinson yesterday, though, didn't he, at Lord's? So out with the old and in with the new, it seems.
Yeah, but I think that's fitting. I think someone so great going out, he would have a lot of youngsters around him. He would have influenced a lot of their lives and the start of a career for Atkinson. To see how he started in front of Jimmy Adams would have been a very special day for both men.
Yeah, what could you say just on Jimmy, sort of sum up, his contribution to this sport of cricket, from one great batsman to one great bowler?
What can I say? I think most importantly is that, his life in cricket, he spent a lot of his life in cricket. To see him here yesterday and to also see his family with him was brilliant. And it shows how great a career you can have in sport. To go through that length of time, he must have had some ups and downs, but to last that long and to come out to the other end shows a lot of young people what a great legacy he has, first of all, and something that you can create for yourself, you can dream about.
Yeah. Well, let's remind people of those two famous records that you hold in cricket. We heard the commentary of the 400. It was the highest individual score in first-class cricket, 501, not out for Warwickshire against Durham in 1994. That came after you had first broken the record for the highest Test score, which you then went on to beat with that 400 against England in 2004. So there's a bit of a theme here, isn't there? England features quite a lot, so much success in the country and against the country. And that is the theme of your new book, then, Lara, The England Chronicles. What can people expect from the book, and why did you decide to pull this together?
Yeah, well, I always felt it was a daunting task trying to put together a book with a 17-year career. I remember doing one, I was just 25 years old back in 94, 95. We were putting it together with Brian Scoville. And even that, I mean, a young man putting together, but even that was a tough task. And yes, I put it off. And then I came about the idea of really and truly trying to separate, my career and try to sort of give some short stories. So the England Chronicles have been written. To be honest, I've had the Australian version of it in my back pocket for the last couple of years. And eventually that would come out. But I think this is the perfect start against a country that the West Indies have so much history with and against. And, all the history even goes beyond our borders. So I think it was fitting to start with England, and I think it's an interesting read. You're speaking to a lot of English people. I didn't know that was it. I'm even more interested that this is focused on your battles against England or playing in England and anything to do with England, which I felt was a good way to start.
We'll bring Jim in a moment from there in Sydney. But of those record innings, the 375 at the Antigua Rec, then the 501 at Edgbaston, and later the 400. What do those achievements mean to you now, and even at the time? What impact did they have on your life and on cricket in the West Indies?
Got two answers to that. Of course, the impact was tremendous. Someone who was trying to sort of get his name up there. Had 277 in Australia, but I didn't have much. After that, no hundreds for a year and a bit, and to come back out with that 375 was special. But what was also more important, I think, is sort of the run that I had from the 375 right to the 501. I think it established in my mind, first of all, that I am good at this level and I could now create something very, very special. Now, I could have gone on and sort of peter out into nothing. We've seen that many times. But to carry on throughout a career and, 17 years with the West Indies, yes, a lot of down periods, but I think for me it established that I was capable of great things at this level. I think now that it's all over, I think it's more a token for the people of the West Indies in terms of passing on, Sir Garfield Sobers passing on that sort of record to myself, and we can hold on to that. I know it's tough times for us. It's been tough times for us for a long time. And individual records and feats are not necessarily what people want, but it's still something you can hold on to.
Hi, Brian. Jim Maxwell here in Sydney. Nice to see you, and I hope you'll be glowing at some point of this game as you were 6 months ago at the Gabba, when you were so full of emotion and excitement about that extraordinary West Indies win on the back of Shamar Joseph. So, where are the West Indies at the moment? They seem still a little unsettled with the selection of their team.
I wouldn't say unsettled. Obviously, you got, in terms of the batting aspect of it, you got to try to see if you can find the right team to get out there to perform, because the victory at the Gabba was really based on Shamar Joseph excellence and on that final morning. And we were still struggling at the bat. I thought Greaves was a very good player. He showed a lot of potential, so I'm surprised that he's not here. But Jason Holder, obviously with his experience. But it is a very young team still. When you look at the top 3 or 4 batters, I'm not sure how much test match they have. You take out Brathwaite out of it, and there's not a lot of test match between those guys. So it's always going to be tough. And maybe you're right. The point of just a little bit of chopping and change it. Maybe it's time sort of to stick and go down the line with some batters. But that hasn't been the case. But as you said, hopefully it's shiny and the sun is out today. Hopefully we can see a better day from the West Indies.
And just recently, they didn't make it to the semi-finals. You suggested Afghanistan would get there, and they did. And what about the Windies' performance in that T20 event?
Yeah, well, I always felt that, I look beyond the results in terms of, the wins that they had early in the tournament. I want to see structure. I want to see a story in victory or in defeat. And I felt that it was pretty easy to sort of identify where the West Indies was being successful, and that was with the runs of Pooran at number 3 or Akil Hussain putting the opposition under pressure with a couple of wickets early in the game. I didn't know what was their plan B and plan C beyond that, and I think it came to fruition where there wasn't much. They do have a lot of match winners in the team, but if you have a match winner, he's got to have the perfect situation each and every single time. If you're under pressure, you need somebody somebody who knows how to consolidate that position and get you out of it and set the game up for the others. So I felt that as a team, we weren't sure what our plans were. But yes, we had the players capable of sort of bashing our way to the finals and winning it, but it didn't happen.
Coincidentally, I'm wearing West Indian colors today. Hi, Brian.
You are.
Charu Sharma from Vizag today. Thanks so much for joining us, and of course, good luck with the book. I will always remember the line that you used when you did retire. You could have said anything, but you said, "Did I entertain?" And that meant so much.
Well, first of all, that was out of frustration because I didn't start my career to entertain. I started my career to be on the best team in the world and to continue being in the best team in the world, but that didn't happen.
Well, shame, but you never know. They might rise again. Brian, you were involved with the T20 World Cup, and because it is the big format now, was there somebody who caught your eye as the next big T20 star, West Indies or otherwise?
The next big star. I think T20 cricket now is, first of all, as it's growing and it's getting mature, you're seeing a lot of the experienced players playing a huge part, like Virat Kohli in the finals, and quite a few players. I'd have to think about it in terms of, I think the future star actually may not have been playing in the World Cup, to be honest. I think Abhishek Sharma, Jaiswal, Shubman Gill, these sort of players that are on the periphery of that world champions now, India, are the future stars of the game. In the West Indies, we still got a team that's pretty young. You look at the captain, Raidanti Pooran, you think that they're going to be there for another World Cup or two. But, it's a game where, that spontaneous performance is starting to go out of the window. It's now starting to mature, and tactically teams are winning because of good decisions and good team play.
All right, I'm going to shift your attention to, I suppose, the really contentious situation right now, because we've discussed on this program the state of Test cricket and its future, and leading cricket officials met in London last week, and there were concerns that the West Indies were, I don't even know how to say this, in serious danger of disappearing from Test cricket without more shared revenue. What are your thoughts on the future of Test match cricket?
Of future of Test match cricket in the West Indies, yeah, that's one thing in terms of, you're talking about money. Money is there. That's a physical thing where you hand over money and how you spend it is very, very important. I don't know if you put 100 million, 200 million into the West Indies bank account, is it going to change the way we play the game? I'm not sure. I believe that we are not harnessing the talent that we have. Obviously, cricket has been diluted by the number of different sports and different opportunities for kids. But I still believe that corporate West Indies has got to get involved. And I believe that the West Indies Cricket Board, or CWC, hasn't done the right job in attracting these sponsors to ensure that at least grassroots, so that's the words that's used a lot, grassroots, but the academies, all the different things, the facilities being up to standard. I think these things are very, very important. We don't have anybody coming through the gate. I walked in here about 8 a.m., before 8 a.m., 7:30 yesterday, and right around Lords, there were people lined up waiting. That's something I was accustomed to back in the late 70s as a kid, getting to the Queen's Park Oval and 5:30 in the morning, waiting for the gate to be open. That's not happening. You get there at 11 o'clock, there is an empty stadium, and you could pretty much, pick a seat wherever you want. We have to try to get the crowd back. So, the MCC or whoever discussing it and trying to find solutions. I think the West Indies Cricket Board's number one job is to breathe the life back into the people of the Caribbean and let them understand what Test cricket is all about. So you can get the world of money. You still need to sort of get the crowd more passionate about it, and we haven't been able to do that. Parents, my dad lived vicariously through former cricketers, and then he lived vicariously through myself when I started to play sort of youth cricket and under 19 cricket. I don't think parents are doing that anymore. So it's a lot of different things that we have to sort of say is the reason why we are struggling at the moment.
Well, Brian, you talk about all the measures that West Indies cricket could take, and they're all relevant, but would you also feel that the custodians of the game, the ICC, could indulge in more of an equitable distribution of revenue so that at least the top nations feel that they're equally supported? Do you think that's even possible? Do you think that's where it could go?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, there are nations that are far richer than the West Indies. You know, I must commend as well. I know it's not normal, but India seems to be touring the West Indies very often, even if it's just for 1 days or a few test matches. And I know that brings in a lot of revenue for the West Indies, and we are very, very grateful for it. But if I just throw my mind back, I remember, like Suez Hall talking about, when we go to Australia, will give us a huge amount of money back in the 70s and 80s. And when they come to the West Indies, they weren't too interested. They just wanted the West Indies to keep coming back. And I knew that was stopped somewhere in the late 90s where ICC felt that each board must pay the same amount to each. And that totally sort of kicked us in the gut because with 100,000 people at the MCG versus 14,000 people at ARG, and sort of the difference in the dollar, it meant that we were going to struggle from that day on. So, yes, I think that should be revisited in terms of how distribution is done. And I don't feel that the West Indies should be treated anyways more special than, say, a Zimbabwe or an emerging nation, but definitely some sort of support if they are the fathers of the game, if they are the ones that are responsible for growing the game or keeping it alive in certain nations, definitely.
Well, I've got to add, I feel like that growing up, all my biggest cricketing heroes were all from the West Indies.
For a lot of people.
There you go. We've got to have them, all the time. Brian, I've got to ask you, and we don't want this to be in any way negative, but if you would share your biggest triumph, as it were, the best thing you felt you did in cricket. And of course, do you actually have any regret in the game? Oh, I wish that could have happened for me.
Let me hear that once more again.
All my heroes are all
Highs and
West.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of high points. I've played cricket for 17 years. I've enjoyed the game. I've had individual or personal feats. But I think the two biggest high points would have been chasing 418 against Australia in Antigua with a very, very young team that was 3-0 down in a series and was going to get totally destroyed by the best cricket playing nation in the world. And to get 418 with that team, that lived on. I remember spending the entire day at the ground. Like if we won the series, we lost it 3-1. Obviously, on a team basis as well, the ICC Champions Trophy in 2004, beating England at the Oval in the dark, again, was definitely a high point in my career. And, I can't, of course, I must mention 277, 375, 400, 501. These are scores that really and truly sort of lift the spirits of a lot of West Indians at the time. In terms of a low point, looking back at my career, I felt that, I was the sort of batter that went out and tried to put my team in a very strong position, 400-500, or see if we can get to 400-500 on the board. What I was looking back, sort of sad about was that, when we were put under a lot of pressure in the fourth innings or, after maybe I've done a lot of work in the first innings, still had to come back to play a different sort of game at the back end, which was survival. And I felt that the disparity between my form in sort of first innings and second innings runs is something that I wish I had a different motivation. I could have switched my motivation from trying to win a game to now trying to save a game. It just was not a very strong position. Sometimes I felt like if everything was licked out of me, after the efforts in the first innings, to find myself trying to, maybe bat like a Larry Gomes or something like that to save a test match. It was tough for me. So that would be a low point and something that I wish, if I had to go back, that would be one of my concentrations.
It's such an interesting psychological aspect of the game. And speaking of the psychological part, I mean, I just wonder, because you were so young in your 20s when you hit those record innings, which catapulted you and sort of made you in that limelight. How did you cope with that sudden extreme adulation that happened? I mean, these days players have all sorts of support staff. There are psychologists. There are all sorts of people around you. What was it like for you then, and how did you cope with that sudden spotlight being on you in such a way?
Yeah, it was tough because you look at the careers of, say, a Tiger Woods. I mean, you feel like if these guys were actually trained from very early for that sort of stardom. I mean, when it arrived on me, as it was like a huge wave just coming in and trying to establish yourself and trying to be one of the best cricketers in the Caribbean, first of all, in the West Indies team, and then obviously being recognized worldwide, to be just thrust to the front of the line. It wasn't easy at all. So I think a lot of it was trial and error, where I went about things and I had to regret some I stood really strong by, but nothing that I'd really say I want to do all over again, because it's just a part of me, what happened. But it took some time. I think 95 to 98 would have been sort of that down period. My batting average dropped a bit, so much going on around me. And then I sort of resurfaced in about 98, 99 and started, I would say, the second half of my career. But it was tough for a young guy coming from a village, and then sort of scaling those heights.
And on a family front, I mean, how does your family go with being the Lara name was suddenly catapulted, and a lot of people maybe don't know about siblings you've got, that sort of thing. Just to fill us in a little bit about your family life.
I got 10 siblings, 10 brothers and sisters, and you know what, my sister Karen and myself were the only ones that carried the Lara name. So the others carried Eustache, which was my mother's name. And I remember they having problems to convince people that they were, siblings of Brian Lara. So they had to go to the Red House registration office to change their last name.
Oh, really?
so
they switched it back to Lara, did they?
Switched it back to There is some benefit in that, they said. So let's do it. But I grew up in a big family, number 10. I had to bat at number 10 in my team of 11 for a little bit. But having 6 bigger brothers, I think, was played a significant part in sort of enhancing my career and me learning about the game under pressure. You're 6, 7 years old and you're playing against kids twice time your age in the streets or wherever. It was fun in a 3-bedroom house having so many kids.
I bet those backyard crickets were great. Games of cricket were great fun and on the beach.
Most definitely.
Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Stumped and reliving some of your career and hearing your insights. So thank you so much for being with us, and congratulations and good luck on the book, Lara, the England Chronicles, which is out now.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for this week's Stumped. My thanks to Jim Maxwell and Charu Sharma, and of course to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.